Ground ball. McLean, second. 12 in a row. The oldest team in professional baseball has its 5th ever winning streak of a dozen straight.
Our job every day is to try to kick somebody's ass. I mean, that's why we're here.
That is caught. Left center. Reds win.
And this ball is launched high and very deep to right, long gone. It's second of the night. Elly De La Cruz.
Short lead for Pena. Larkin drills it. Do you believe this? That's going to be gone. Back to back. Walk-off home runs. How about this? He's back. He's back. He's back.
And a swing and a drive. Deep left field. This one belongs to the Reds. Swung on and hit deep to left field. That ball is going to be gone. Home run. And the Reds put it tied to 4.
Goes to second one. Around to first. Got a double play. And the Reds sweep the Cubs. Breaking ball. Hit high. Hit deep. Way back there. And gone into the second deck and left. Christian Encarnacion Strand walks it off.
Archer does it in his major league debut. He gets the final 3 outs, and the Reds get an extra inning win. A thriller 5-4.
Swung on. Fly ball. Hit to deep right field. That ball is going to be gone. A grand slam home run by Mike Cameron.
2 outs, 2 on. Reds down by 1. Larkin down the line. This will win it. This will win it. Here comes Tucker. Here comes Steins. Larkin's won the game. Barry Larkin gets mobbed. Look at this scene. It's synergy.
The stretch, the pause and the pitch. And a line drive, base hit left center field. A single for Aaron Boone. And this one belongs to the Reds. The Reds have won 8 in a row.
Kobayashi with a long look turns it loose, and Dunn hits it to deep right. It's all over. And this one belongs to the Reds. The Reds have won their 5th game in a row. They've defeated the Cleveland Indians on an Adam Dunn 3-run home run, 4-2. In on the corners at first and third. 2 on, nobody out. Here's Royce Ring pitching, no bunt. Ground ball by the third baseman into left field. Jay Bruce rounds third. This one belongs to the Reds.
That's hit pretty good. Guess what? He doesn't need speed. That's gone. He's the king of the Queen City tonight.
With 1 out here in the 11th inning, you sure got to go now. 1 out, pull down the left field line. That ball is going to get the winning run in. Here comes Jay Bruce rounding third, heading toward the plate. And this one belongs to the Reds.
Huge situation for Votto. Why you paying the big bucks to deliver the goods with 2 outs in the 9th inning? Can he do it? In the gap, right center field, and Votto delivers the goods.
Hit deep center field. Hank Hill going back at the warning track. Oh, he gets one. It's gone. Joey Votto is delivering.
Welcome to the Chatterbox Reds pregame show. Today is Tuesday, May 13th, 2025, 513 day here in Cincinnati. Today I'm here joined by Alex Wallace. Welcome, Alex. How are we doing
Ricky,
today?
what's going on? Happy 513 day to you. Happy Pete Rose reinstatement day to everyone.
Yes. Today we're taking on the White Sox, game 1 of the series. White Sox aren't doing too hot. They're coming off the worst season in MLB history, winning just 41 games last year, and they are currently 12-29, the worst team in the American League. I don't know how that fares for us, but what are your thoughts on the White Sox going into today?
Well, the Reds played the National League version of the White Sox last week or 2 weeks ago. Honestly, it's all been kind of melding together lately. But hopefully the Reds can take down the White Sox like they did last year and the Rockies just a few series ago.
Yeah, it was just announced earlier today that Pete Rose and Shoeless Joe Jackson and a couple other guys that have been permanently banned will be reinstated. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the show, but let's talk about our Red Legs. We got a pitching matchup today. We got Andrew Abbott. The White Sox are throwing out an opener in Brandon Eisert. What do you got on Andrew Abbott and Brandon Eisert for us?
Yeah, don't know much about the White Sox guy. I feel like he could be a guy that they just threw out there. But I'm a really big Andrew Abbott fan. Even I know there was a lot of rumors over the offseason and trying to grab that, extra bat or whatever, and moving him. I'm honestly really against that right now. He's been really maybe the second best starter behind Green. Personally, I would take him over Nick Lodolo. I just really like how Abbott pitches. And it always seems like outside of that start in Colorado, where it was, snowing, sleeting, raining, cold, that
just a terrible day.
Just a terrible day overall. He's really held it together and always keeps us in the game.
Yeah, Brandon Eisert is a reliever. He is 1-0 with a 4.96 ERA in 16 innings. He's got a 1.47 WHIP. So I don't know what that translates. He is a lefty, so let's see what that does for us.
Yeah, and well, that's not good. Number one. Number two, though, what's interesting is prior to the game, they were starting or before that change, they were starting a righty. Not sure when the lineups came out. I'd be interested because it is a righty heavy lineup, outside of our normal, but we'll mention it later. But Connor Joe there, I really like that pickup. I think he'll play a role this year. But it's like the guys have said, and not to jump around Ricky here, but the key to every game is scoring early. If the Reds don't score early, it's over. So that's what we've seen the last year plus. So hopefully they can just jump on this guy and, get to the next bullpen arm as quick as possible.
Yeah. Speaking of getting runs early, we got, I don't want to get ahead of you on the lineup, but we got Matt McLain in the 8-hole today. Why don't you run us through this lineup and we'll talk about it as we go through.
Yeah. The last few weeks, Sam and I have just been talking about, hey, the lineup not that it doesn't matter, but we know that Terry is going to just keep it the same week in and week out, or day in and day out, week in, week out for us. But today, a big first change. We see Lux and McLain dropped in the lineup a little bit. Lux was very hot a few weeks ago. I was already campaigning for him to be an all-star. Maybe it's just a one-day change. We'll see. But McLain dropping was a little bit of a surprise, just because he's been there all year. But you can tell that Francona really has a relationship with these guys. So I'm sure it's something they've talked about. It wasn't a shock to McLain coming in today. Not McLain, but I believe Saturday, I forget what game it was offhand. Maybe it was Sunday when Barlow walked the bases loaded, or the bases were loaded, and Tito took him out. Tito followed him down the dugout and put his arm around him and was talking to him, and they caught it on TV. And, that's happening in the clubhouse, in the dugout before the games to all these guys. So maybe it's something they talked it over and let's get a jump start, but something probably, did have to happen. And to get some, more at bats for some of these guys who are hot, like Espinal and the like.
Yeah, and I'm seeing in the chat that they'd like to see Benson or Hines in the lineup over Joe. Earlier in the day, I thought, why would you put Joe in the lineup over Benson? But I'm thinking that they may have known about this pitching change earlier in the day than we knew about. So that's why Joe is in the lineup over Benson.
And
I can make the argument with Hines too. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, another thing on that. Here's my view on it. Hayes is always going to be in. Hayes and Lux are going to be in the lineup. It seems to me almost every day. Now we've noticed that kind of switching around, even McLain being a part of that rotation and bringing Lux in, or not Espinal anymore since he's been basically the third baseman. But let's not act like Benson, Hines, and Joe all have their own warts. So, I'm not going to get too worked up about it. And some people say, well, hey, you can save these big bats for the end. Well, I'd rather have them have 3 at-bats than 1, or 4 at-bats than 1. But I think it's just all of a somewhat of a rotation of how they see it going forward. I do like the Connor Joe move. But I mean, Nathan, I see, like, that's the comment we see in the chat. I mean, I am pretty partial to Hines myself. So it's also a Great American Ballpark. Joe can hit the ball out of the yard. We've seen it. I believe he's probably, hit a couple home runs last year when he was on the Pirates against us. So I'm not going to get too upset by that, but we'll see. A lot of these crazy things, and this one's not terrible, has seemed to work out for Tito the last month plus.
Yeah, and kind of going back to like getting ahead early. I have a stat on Abbott. He has allowed no hits and just 2 walks for 17 batters faced in the first inning all year. So that's a good stat to have for Abbott. Kind of going into the White Sox a little bit. They're not great, obviously. I got their lineup pulled up here. Anything stand out to you? I think this is Luis Roberts' first game back off of a couple of days on not the IL, but just kind of like rest. What are your takeaways from this? And then, like, I don't think anybody has actively faced Abbott, so there's nothing really there other than I think Sosa and Vaughn. But if you want to read through that, we'll talk about them a little bit.
Yeah, is it Meredith, Vargas, Cuero, Robert Jr., Vaughn, Sosa, Elko, who just hit his first home run, I believe, or first hit, just came up here recently. Yeah. Rojas, and then Michael A. Taylor. A couple guys that I do recognize their name. I consider myself a pretty big fan overall, just outside the Reds as well. But some of these guys I'm not too familiar with. I know Cuero was the guy they got for Lucas Giolito 2 years ago when all the Reds fans were really wanting Giolito to get our
dodged the bullet there.
Yeah,
didn't
we dodged a bullet there. We could have got him, but I believe the Guardians were swooped in on the waiver wire. But that's another day, another story for another day. Vaughn was someone I remember years ago when the Reds drafted Nick Lodolo. I was hoping that they would drop to him, but he's not been great. They've moved him around first base, left field, and now settled in at DH, it seems, and he can't hit great. I mean, he's got power, but you know what? We use it a lot when we talk about the NFL, but any given day, sometimes it seems with baseball, it's a funny game when it comes to it. We could say these guys are no good and rotten or their WAR is bad, their OPS plus, whatever stat we want to cherry pick. You just never know on a given Tuesday, Ricky.
Yeah, you never know with any of these guys, and we're going to talk about that a little bit here too with our bullpen availability. We talked about a little bit pre-show. The Reds are going to have some decisions to make here pretty soon with their bullpen.
Yeah, absolutely. Something to keep an eye on. The depth of the bullpen has really gotten pretty deep with May and Richardson performing. I was just interested in your thoughts. We have a full bullpen availability, you would think, with the off day yesterday, tonight. Hopefully we don't have to use it. But what do you do? Because the only guys with options are May, Richardson, and Ashcraft now. I think Nick Kirby touched on Diaz the other night reviewing the minor league. He seemed to be doing okay. Not many walks down in Louisville. It makes me wonder how they treat this, because really the only few guys that are expendable are Barlow, Suter, and Rogers, all on major league guarantee deals with quite a bit of money behind them.
Yeah, that's a tough choice. I think one of the more, I don't want to say obvious, but the one that stands out would probably be Rogers. He's good when he's kind of like not in a pressure situation, but we have a few of those guys like Suter. Suter really like hammers down like 2 innings when you need him the most, but it's non-pressure. Rogers, if he's got a guy on base when he comes in, that guy's going to score. It's just part of it. And it reminds me of Ian Jabot back in 2023. It seems like every time he came in with a runner on, that guy was scoring. But if he came in with the bases empty, he was nails. So he seems like he would be the one that'd be most expendable. I'd probably lean towards Barlow after him. And then, I don't know, because like Richardson's he's performing and May's performing. And it's just, I don't know. What do you do?
Yeah, it's why Nick Kroll and Brad Meager get paid the big bucks, and we're sitting here on a podcast
talking about it.
But it is interesting. It's an interesting thought, especially with some of these. And I've been getting on the Reds, posting and tweeting into air for years about just the lack of bullpen, developing bullpen arms.
Yeah.
So, it looks like we're able to do that. Now, granted, would you rather some of these guys start? Sure. I would like to argue with someone, and we can get back to today's game. I'd like to argue with someone about what's more effective. Andrew Miller at his peak with New York or Cleveland, or Andrew Miller as a fourth starter.
Yeah.
And I'm not comparing Richardson or May to Andrew Miller just yet. But, moving these guys who aren't succeeding, like a Richardson or Ashcraft in this case too, as a starter to the bullpen, I'd rather these guys turn into impact arms. But I got a question for you, Ricky, back to today's game. And I'm not sure how you and Mike have been chatting about it, but Sam and I have been talking about, hey, Elly's been doing pretty well this year. Even if the power is not there, he certainly is, getting on base, getting the hits and had that long streak and the on base streak for a bit.
Yeah.
I know the greater conversation's been about him not stealing as much. And when he gets on, I think he is, moving to second or third in most cases. How concerned are you with his lack of power? He hit the home run Saturday, and that was his first home run since, I think they said the 19th or 20th. I think his was the April 20th and McLean's was April 19th. How concerned are you with the lack of power we see from Elly this year? And, I heard our friend Elliot Rearing call him elite last week on Off the Bench. And I'm not sure, as a Elly fan myself, I'm not sure if he's been elite this season.
Yeah, I'm not terribly concerned. I know it took him a little while to kind of heat up last year. He hit 8 home runs in April, which was kind of surprising, but those were towards the end of the month, which was weird. And then he only hit one home run in May. This year he's got 6 home runs altogether. I mean, I don't think they're asking for a whole lot of power out of him. I think they're looking for extra bases. And I think what Nick Krall said in the offseason about trying to find line drive hitters that, aren't launching the ball out of the ballpark necessarily. I think Elly kind of fits that mold, and he's going to run into one, and it's going to go a long way. But I don't think Elly's that, deep launch angle attack guy compared to, like, I don't know, Giancarlo Stanton or somebody like that. They're going to come, and they're going to come in bunches. I just think once the weather starts warming up, it's been weird too, man. It's been like raining every day. It's been not really warming up quite yet.
Yep.
I think once June hits, middle of June, I think we're going to see him with like 15.
I'm hopeful. Good point about the weather. That's something I think all Cincinnatians, and for those who don't live in Cincinnati, I hope you have better weather than we have had this spring and early summer almost. And my family, we've actually been talking about how it's not really getting like super warm until almost July. I'm interested the last couple of years, it seems, anecdotally, please don't, fact check me. But the one with Elly, I'm a little concerned about, and hopefully he can turn the stride here. And Nathan, thanks for the chat again. I'm not sure I've seen you in here lately. Some of these, he's missing the fastball right down the middle. Trust me, I'm not concerned about Elly's performance long-term or even short-term, really. I'm just interested in what you've seen from him and what you think could be part of that. That's one concern I do have. And because at some point, and you can't put it all on him, and I'm not saying this, but when the Reds have these games that they're just not hitting, we've said it until we're blue in the face. If Elly and McLean and really Steer, who everyone thought was part of the core here, and Stevenson, if they can't hit, then we're relying on Austin Hayes, and he hasn't been the previous Austin Hayes prior to his leg injury. But it's just something else. I mean, we just need these guys to keep hitting. That's it.
Yeah, and I'm looking. I saw John on the chat talked about him leading the league in strikeouts.
We got breaking news.
Oh, what we got? Oh,
we got breaking news. It is another weather delay tonight on Tuesday. We saw some pop-up showers. So we'll keep you guys a little bit if we keep the views up here. Maybe for some questions at the end. We are going to talk a little, not to spoil the lead. We are going to talk a little Pete Rose at the end. So if anyone has any funny Pete Rose stories in the chat,
post them. We'll highlight them,
and we'll highlight the ones that we can read.
So I was looking at John on the chat talking about strikeout leaders as far as like hitters. Elly is tied for second with Byron Buxton, and he said, "What other star players are in that category?" Austin Riley's in that category. Austin Riley has 51 strikeouts. Elly has 54. Seiya Suzuki has 50 strikeouts.
Not a star. Austin Riley, I'll give you.
Austin Riley. I'm just saying, Seiya Suzuki as far as like a name. Matt Chapman, 48 strikeouts. Dansby Swanson, 48 strikeouts. Corbin Carroll, 47 strikeouts. O'Neal Cruz, 47 strikeouts. Everybody wanted Luis Robert, 47 strikeouts. Rafael Devers, 47 strikeouts. Matt McClain, 46. So, I mean, look, it's not – the strikeout numbers are overblown. Yeah, you don't want your guys to strike out. But, I take Adam Dunn in this lineup every day.
Well, certainly. I mean, I posted the other day, the Reds haven't had a 30 home run guy since 2021.
Yeah, and then go back before that.
Yeah.
It wasn't much. There's only – I think I had in my other show, we had a scoreboard stumper where who were the last 5 Reds outfielders to have 30 home runs. And it's – Castellanos, Scott Schebler. I mean, look at these guys. It's what Shinshu Chu, did he have 30? He had high 20s, I believe.
30.
And then you go back, Adam Dunn, Jay Bruce. That's it. You have to go back to 2008 to have 5. Like, that's crazy.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's been a revolving door there for a little while, especially since, Bruce was really the only constant there from the, as 08 to 13-ish time frame. He stayed on till 16. But they were revolving with Billy Hamilton, of course, couldn't hit. Drew Stubbs had some pop, but not 30 home run pop.
Right.
Chu just the 1 year, and then left field was a revolving door. Gomes, Nix, Marlon Byrd. So it's not surprising. It's not surprising at all. They need some pop back there. They need some pop. And I'm hopeful that really Austin Hayes, batting 4th tonight, that he can bring some of that, maybe not 30 homers.
Get 25.
25 plus would
22,
be great.
25. Just give us something more than 20. Like, I want to see something, I'm tired of, for one, there not being a consistent outfielder. Like, we had Adam Dunn for 5-6 years consistently. We had Jay Bruce for 6-7 years, 8 years consistently. And then we just haven't had anybody. We all clamored for Nick Castellanos, and he walked, and granted, he's not great in Philadelphia, but I think those numbers translate to Great American Ballpark a little bit. And like, does Rhys Hines potentially get you there if he plays every day? I mean, maybe that week he had last year was you can't write it off to just luck. You have to be able to put the bat on the ball, but obviously things level out, and you got to worry about his strikeout numbers, his chase percentage, and stuff like that. But I don't know, man. It's just it's hard because Great American Ballpark, we should have thumpers, and we just don't have any.
Well, and that's where really, it was built for Adam Dunn and Griffey Jr., that short porch and right. And just looking at the lineup, Elly's a lefty, obviously a switch hitter, but a lefty most of the times. Where's his power? Last year he, had about, I think 25. Hayes, righty. Stevenson, righty. Steer, righty. Gavin Lux doesn't have huge power. Gavin Lux fan, not huge power. McClain has power, righty. Connor Joe, righty. So, you'd love to see Benson take that step.
I think he's got the potential to do it.
I've always said that too. Here is the question, though, and you can't have it both ways. How much are they willing to allow these guys to figure it out in a year that we all want to win. That I think is what they're trying to balance right now. And it's going to be tough to do. You see this a lot in not to steal it from the boss, Trace Fowler, but that's what was so tough last year. You lose McLean, you lose CES to injury all year. Marte was out for his suspension, as we all know, and then came back and was terrible. And then Benson was bad all last year. So is Benson really bad? Time will tell, but he had a fantastic 2023.
Yeah.
So that's the hard part with this was McLean a flash in the pan in 2023? I don't think so. But if he would have played last year, you would have known.
Yeah, and I was never a like a diehard fire David Bell kind of guy. I mean, I wasn't like his biggest fan, but we're not really seeing that big of a difference other than the consistent lineup every day.
Yeah, we're gonna get into this. Correct. I think there's something more to that though.
Yeah, and I'm a pro Tito guy. I'm not. I'm on the backs of. I like Tito's approach as consistency and kind of getting the guys going. And I think it's his first year. It's his first year back out of retirement. It's going to take time, whether it's going to take a month, 3 months, half a season. Who knows? He's got to fill out. It's a bunch of young guys too. Cleveland had some pretty established players at the time too.
Here's my one thing with David Bell looking back. They don't fire him with 5 games left if they just wanted to move on. I think, not to be a conspiracy theorist guy here, I think something happened. And I think his name was Jeff Pickler. He was gone with 5 games to go as well. Something was not right with that situation for whatever it was. We can't speculate or what have you, but if you're just going to move on from him, they would have done it later. They either wanted a quote unquote jump start or they knew Francona was their guy. Maybe through the reports and the stories, maybe not. But when we look back, it's the same team from 2023 and without Votto. And we all know Votto wasn't a contributor, really, but was he a locker room guy? That sort of thing. That maybe helped this team out. But it just seemed like to me that David Bell lost the team last year. It just wasn't the same team. And hopefully Francona can bring them together. I think Austin Hayes is that Votto piece.
That's a good point.
That big brother type guy. Just a few years older than these guys that are the core. But can be someone, and I'm not comparing Austin Hayes to Votto. No one put it in the chat, but someone who has the experience, has been to the playoffs. Gavin Lux is the same way. Jose Trevino, I totally forgot about him.
Yeah, him too.
Trevino, I think has been a real, taken over for Doug Flynn and the glue. I think Trevino is really important, and I'm very excited for that extension and seeing him in Cincinnati the next couple years.
Yeah, that's a good point about the leadership quality.
And real quick,
yeah,
I think that's a bigger part that for baseball than really any other game because you're here. They are together so long, 162 games, and when it comes down to it, I can't buy into some of these analytics versus lefty versus righty versus this pitcher versus that pitcher when the percentages are so much smaller.
Yeah,
because at the end of the game, at the end of the day, the players have to play, and is this the Dodgers lineup? No. Is it the Yankees lineup? No. Even the Braves, right? But we just played the Braves. And a couple of those guys, their shortstop, their right fielder, the Reds have better players than those two guys, and those guys are performing.
And I've seen on X too about, Chris Valaika and his role and Fire Valaika and all this. It's like he's been with these guys for 2.5 months if you include spring training. It's just it's not enough time. He's got 20 guys, really, if you think about it, between the major league roster and a couple of guys that are going to come back and forth between AAA. It's you've got to feel it out. And as much as I hate to say it, 2025 is going to be a feel out year. It's as much as we want to win, we've been waiting to win for 35 years. But we have the manager. I think we have the manager. We've got a good roster, a good young core that's come up together. And I think, maybe I hate to push it off another year, but if we can get the guys 2026, there could be something special.
So let me ask this, and we're at our 30-minute mark, but hey, there's no rules here. Unplanned question. If there is one move that you can make, and let's make it realistic, Ricky, we are hoping that, if the Reds do their job and sweep the White Sox, they're a game over 500. So the Reds are in this. Let's get off the loss, win, and we're back. If we win 2 in a row, whatever, we're in this. We can be in this. But so back to the question: if the Reds do their job this week and then get back above 500, what is one move you do that's realistic to help the Reds this year? I saw a chat here. Hey, let's make a trade for a home run hitter.
Then you weaken up the rotation at that point.
Absolutely, you do. But what's the one move that you make to help this team out?
I think it's probably maybe a hot take, but maybe you give Benson and Hines more playing time, and you get them in there, let them get their feet wet, more than just wet. Let them get in there and let them go. Let them off the leash, so to speak. I think Lux at DH, I kind of like that, but I'm looking at, if I was making a change with this lineup, I would probably put Joe at first, sit Steer, and put Hines at right. That would be a move. I guess as far as like a trade, the big fish everybody wants is Luis Robert, but I don't think is he really performing to where we're getting an upgrade? I don't think so.
I'm not sold on him for the price, especially. I wouldn't. He's not on my radar.
Yeah. Brent Rooker is going to be out of the question now. He got extended by the Athletics. I don't know. It's really, we need Encarnacion Strand to get healthy and get back and perform. I guess if you were to make a shocking move, move up Hector Rodriguez from Double-A to the Major League roster.
Play outfield every day?
Yeah, play him outfield every day. I think he's hit at every level. He's been consistent. I think he's the guy that could make the jump from Double-A to the Major League roster. I'm not moving Sal Stewart yet. I want him to get more time. He's still young. He's still, 21? I don't want to rush him because I think he's a part of the future. And then by future, I mean the next 2 years. And it's him, a young Sal Stewart with the core that we have that's still going to have intact for another 2-3 years on top of that. It's good. But I'm keeping Sal Stewart down at least through this year. Maybe you tempt it next year.
As funny as I was actually thinking about a Sal Stewart. I think of the trade deadline, the trade deadline where we see these, big, mega blockbusters go has kind of gone away, unless you're willing to take on the money. And as we know, the Reds aren't going to take on the money. But it makes me wonder if a guy like a Sal or a Hector Rodriguez, who I know is hit fairly well, and of course, not as high on the prospect rankings, but I kind of ignore those as well. But one of those two coming up and just sparking something, getting something in here to spark them. We look back and it wasn't a team managed by Tito, but the Red Sox, it was their 2018 World Series. Now, granted, I understand it was a ton of money. I think the highest payroll in baseball that year. But who won the MVP that year in the World Series? It was like a guy named Steve Pearce, I believe. It was he either won in the World Series MVP or the ALCS MVP. Someone like that, where maybe that's a platoon bat for someone else, or that Taylor Ward type who's not done great yet this year, but hey, he can hit 10, 15 homers in a month if he gets hot, or, a month and a half. So someone like that, I think Taylor Ward would be a great option. Obviously, there's a lot of time left to see who may be available, but I would like to see just a lefty masher. Another guy, I don't look, he just popped in my head. What was that guy's name who played for the Brewers? Rowdy Tellez.
Rowdy Tellez.
Imagine Rowdy Tellez, just put him at DH every game.
Kyle Schwarber.
Well, you couldn't get him. Middletown's own Kyle Schwarber. You couldn't pry him away from Philly, but just a guy who, hey, you're gonna play DH a few times a week, and we just want you to hit home runs, and that's it. Someone like that. But I think they need a spark. And a lot of times we see that come from the young guys.
Yeah. And I guess to kind of get somewhat on track, in Central, we're fourth right now. We're thankfully ahead of the Pirates, but why don't you walk us through the NL Central right now, and then we'll get to we'll start talking about Pete a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get back to on track. So the Cubs versus Marlins tonight. Hopefully the Marlins can help us out. Brewers versus Guardians, and the Cardinals will not be able to win tonight. They are already postponed in Philadelphia.
It's good news. And the Pirates are in shambles, man. They fired their manager. I think it was Fair Territory. They were talking about, do you trade Paul Skeens now? That'd be an interesting topic to talk about, just because of, you could get the biggest haul in the history of the game, but it is not really a precedent for that kind of move either.
Oh wow, we're way off the rails. Only thing
we don't have to really talk about it.
Yeah,
that was just an interesting topic to talk about.
The only thing I'll add is this: for all the card collectors out there, Dick's Sporting Goods bought the debut patch card of Paul Skeens and is displaying it in one of their stores near Pittsburgh, or near Pittsburgh. That would be a bad investment if the Pirates turn around and traded Skeens after they spent all that money on the card.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
I'm looking at Twitter right now, and that's the Reds Twitter account saying the start of the game's been delayed. And the first comment on there says, also, so Luis Robert can switch dugouts, right? I thought that was funny.
Yeah.
Let's talk about, if we do get the game in tonight, which I'm sure we are. I'm west of Great American Ballpark, and it's the rain's kind of stopped, so I'd assume we'll get it in the night. It's probably going to be an hour or two later than normal. Let's talk about the keys to the game. What is something you're keying in for the Reds to get the win tonight?
I hate to sound like a broken record, Ricky. I just score early.
Yeah.
If this team can score 4 runs, they're winning games. I wish I had the stat in front of me. But if they score, the Braves, I'm sure it's very similar to the Braves. They were showing that last week, where the Braves, if they scored 4, they were winning the games. If the Reds can score 4 runs, Abbott will pitch well enough tonight to make sure that's okay. But we just haven't seen it.
And my key to the game, I like to go on the interwebs and look up some betting lines, and I got some funny ones here. Elly De La Cruz has scored at least 1 run in 8 of the Reds' last 9 games against American League opponents that hold a losing record. And Austin Hayes has scored at least 1 run in each of his last 4 appearances with the Reds as a favorite. I don't know what you make of that, but I thought that was interesting, and hopefully that leads to a couple runs. There's 2, so let's just hope we can get 2 runs out of that, and Abbott shuts them out.
Yeah, I would say let's double that 4. That's the minimum for me.
Yeah.
But anyway, now usually when I do this show with Sam, so Ricky, thanks for jumping in and subbing in for Sam this week. I always like to have a little fun story or a little nugget that I found online. Many will remember there was the Reds had an outfielder. We were talking about outfielders a little bit ago, Ricky, who had power. there was an outfielder for the Reds. He went by the name King Griffey Jr. In the early 2000s, he played for the Reds quite a bit, and his dad was on some teams that won a couple championships. You may have heard of him. His name was King Griffey. Well, the Reds traded King Griffey Jr. to the Chicago White Sox, and he played the end of that year with them. Not many at bats, not many games. I think maybe around the 60 game mark. If you are looking for a King Griffey Jr. bobblehead, you're in luck, or White Sox bobblehead, you're in luck because the White Sox are doing a King Griffey Jr. giveaway this August. I think the number's at 7,500.
So you didn't get that many there?
You may be able to just get in there and get it. I'm not too big of a fan to go to Chicago, especially that part of town, but it may be something you're interested in, getting on eBay or Facebook Marketplace to get.
Yeah, I was looking at that when you sent it over to me, and he had 131 at bats for the White Sox in 2008. So I thought that's hilarious.
That's bobblehead worthy. Who's more worthy for a bobblehead, King Griffey Jr. in a White Sox uniform, or Shogo Akiyama in a Reds uniform?
Oh boy, yeah, I think if we were in White Sox territory, we'd be contemplating it for sure.
Yeah.
Senshu Chu bobblehead coming soon. I mean, he had that 1 year. He was great though. Don't get me wrong, he was great that 1 year, but
absolutely.
Is that bobblehead worthy? Santiago Espinal for 2025. Get his bobblehead.
Yeah. So I didn't see many Pete Rose chats in there, but obviously we did mention it. Pete Rose, Shoeless Joe, all getting reinstated after after they passed away. Now the new rule is once they pass away, they're able to be reinstated. I don't think it's too much of a coincidence personally that it's during the Reds week that they're honoring Pete tomorrow. So get your tickets on Game Time for Pete Rose night at the ballpark, and also against the White Sox, Shoeless Joe. Again, not a conspiracy guy, but it's kind of a strange timing.
Yeah, it's funny that they are doing this the week we are honoring Pete, and we're playing the White Sox. Shoeless Joe played for the White Sox. They threw the World Series against the Reds, funny enough. And I had always been a proponent of Shoeless Joe getting in just because you look at his stats during that time, and, he was the only player that actually had good stats in that World Series. So it's kind of obvious to me that he wasn't the one that kind of threw the series. I think he was just the one guy. But Shoeless Joe, he's a career 356 hitter, 62.2 WAR. He deserved to be in my opinion. And Pete, It's obvious, man. He's one of the greatest players of all time.
Yeah, it's just strange timing. I'm not a huge fan of them doing this after he passed away. I get it, lifetime ban, whatever. Pete dug his own. He did this on his own. Yeah. He could have done a lot more things. Showing up at Hard Rock Cafe, living in our Hard Rock Casino, doing signings, doing it in Vegas. Probably not the best look.
Yeah.
If you say that you want to get back in the game, what have you, but happy for his family if they're happy. Tomorrow night's going to be rocking down there, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a fun night. I didn't think about it until today, and I know we need to wrap up here, but I'm really getting my conspiracy hat on now with this. I really am, because
tinfoil hat show.
Was this the only day that had they played on the 14th? I seriously doubt it. I'm about to pull up my MLB app to verify. Then they're playing against the White Sox on the 14th. So obviously they wanted a date with the 14th on a Wednesday, kind of not the time they want to do their promotions. I'm scrolling through here now. I got plenty of time if you got time.
I'm good.
So actually it does look like there's no Saturday 14th. So that makes sense. Looking, they don't play on the August the 14th. They play in Detroit on June 14th. So maybe it's just a coincidence. Maybe it is just a coincidence that this happened. But it's about as strange as the Mavericks getting the first pick last night. I'll say that.
Say it ain't so, Shoeless Joe. That's what I'll leave it at. Let's get a score prediction in. We'll get the chat involved. If you want to leave your score predictions, I'll highlight them as Alex is coming up with his, and I'll put mine. The winner, we'll post it in the comments. And we'll get a nice little pin next to your name. So, Alex, what do you got for a score prediction for us?
I'm gonna go. We're gonna wipe the slate clean. This new lineup is gonna do wonders tonight. 6-2 Reds, and I'm Brad. Just posted it right as I was saying it. 6-2 Reds is what I'm going with.
Okay, we got Ricky Johnson 14-2. Let's go. I like that positivity.
Nope. Ricky Johnson. We don't want 14.
No, yep, you're right. Yeah, because
if they do 14 tonight, they'll score 0 tomorrow. So let's change that up, please.
Carey's got 5-4 Reds.
We need a couple more. In here. Ricky, what's yours?
We're gonna get a great start out of Abbott. He's gonna shut out the first inning like he's done all year long. I think he's gonna go 6 innings. He's gonna give up 1 run. We're gonna score 5. It's gonna be 5-1 Reds.
All righty. Sounds great. Well, everyone, thanks for joining us tonight. Hope the Reds can get this game in. I haven't seen the radar since they announced that it's going to be in a delay. Hopefully it doesn't get too wet out there, and the Reds can get this game in tonight. And then tomorrow night, May 4th, 14th, 2025, Pete Rose night at Great American Ballpark. Hope everyone who's going there has a great time. And if you're not going there, again, get your tickets at game time.
Yeah, and with that, Alex, hit us with the Go Reds, and we'll get out of here.
Let's go Reds.
Go Reds.